So hi, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good one. Got a little jolt here. Yeah, pick it up. I'm Jeff Weinstein. Nice to meet all of you. I'm a councilman with Ocean Township, and I'm the chairman of our newly created Economic Development Committee. I have with me Rob Chera. Rob's the vice chairman of that committee and town councilman. So it's great to have you here. First, I just want to say how great it is for us to be working with the Greater Ocean Chamber of Commerce. We've been working on other projects together, and it's just great that we're able to partner. We're going to be doing a lot more of this, in the future, and figuring out things that are good for small businesses and people who are part of the chamber, and also who are just small businesses in the town of Ocean and the Greater Ocean area, I guess. So we're very excited about this. So just a couple of things. I wanted to give you 2 seconds about what we're doing on the Economic Development Committee. There's like 3 objectives that we have for our committee. One is how do we revitalize Route 35, and how do we energize that to attract more businesses and uplift the tax base that we have along Route 35 and actually create great businesses that are great for everybody in the town. So we're figuring out how to do that. And probably also in the process of figuring out what do we do with that middle divide and if we could do something with that. So we're going to be thinking about those things. We want to do everything we can to support small businesses in our town. And part of that is also figuring out how do we, what do we look like with Netflix coming in, and how do we set ourselves up to be really successful as a community, and also as small businesses and other businesses that are in Ocean that can benefit from the Netflix ventures. Okay, so one of the things that we're thinking about is what could we be known for inside Ocean Township, and we're starting to work through that and all those kind of things. So I'm a software entrepreneur. I've had 5 or 6 software companies, and the software company I have today is actually an AI-based software company on the financial services side. And the one thing I wanted to say is I really kind of congratulate all of you for being here. Right? I know AI can be something that everybody talks about and no one knows what it is, right? I think at the consumer level and the individual small business level, it's a little different than maybe at the big enterprise level, but I think getting involved in this is a great place to start. And I just want to tell you, so that in the world of technology, there's always these paradigm shifts, right? There was the idea of people getting laptops, there was PCs, then there were laptops, and then there were automated receptionist systems, and then there was search technology, and there's all these kind of things that kind of evolved over time, right? And every one of them, everybody thought there was going to be huge problems with the economy and what was going to happen. And I think every time something that's a paradigm shift does occur, it creates great opportunity for everybody. And so the more you can kind of get involved in it and learn about it, I think it really helps you figure out how to kind of build on that. All right. So I think it's great that you're doing this. I just want to say thank you to Paul Wright for being here. And I want to say thank you for Dave Kolakowski and Regina for kind of organizing this. It's great working with them, and I'm just excited about all the things that we're going to be able to do together for this and in the future. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dave, and Dave has a couple. I'm going to hand it over to Rob, and Rob has a couple of things he's going to say. So thank you very much. I'm going to be here all morning. Thanks.
And you'll be here tonight too for stand-up. My name is Rob. I'm a councilman, as Jeff said, also on the Economic Development Committee, also on the Chamber. And as Jeff said, I would, and from a day job type of thing, I do work for an AI-powered technology solutions company. Been doing that for 26 years. Having said that, I will tell you, I like to use the term, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I consider myself an old dog in some cases, but from an AI perspective, I have learned a lot from it. We sell a lot of different technologies, but AI in the simplest form is just automation, and it's automating your businesses. So I don't want to steal any of Paul's thunder. I have no idea what he's going to say. If he's going to say that, I apologize. But you want to really take hold of that, because it can make your life easier. I'm not saying any of you are afraid of it. Artificial is the term for the AI, but could easily just be also termed automation intelligence. And if you grasp it, if you listen to what Paul has to say, you go out there. There are a lot of people, like Jeff said, most of you are small business owners or small businesses. much different than the multi-billion-dollar, multinational organizations out there. It can help you as much, if not more, than what those organizations are using it for. So take Paul's advice, listen, and if any of us can help you in the future from an economic development perspective or business perspective, please reach out to us. Enjoy the day. Thanks.
I'm going to try to explain what they said. Before I introduce Paul, I want to just lay the groundwork here. There's 4 stages that we go through for any technology adoption. The first stage, of course, is unconscious, unaware. I don't know what I don't know, right? People don't know what it is. They don't hear anything about it. They don't know how they can use it, obviously. Then they go through a conscious, unaware, which means I read about it, I hear about it, other people are using it. How the heck do I use it? That's kind of where a lot of us are in this room right now. Then we go through a process where we're consciously learning and trying things out, testing it, and that's hopefully we're going to get to today. And the final stage is going to be the unconscious mastery. We're using it without even realizing we're using it. And it's changing our lives so quickly, and I don't even realize I'm using it anymore. So it's unconscious. Those are the 4 stages that we go through with any technology. And I think back to every technology that I dealt with when we had the one computer that we had to share in our offices. No one ever used it. What do we use that for? So now everybody's got one. Well, when email came out, this guy, Ed, in the other room said, I'm not going to use email. You know where he is today? I don't even know where he is today. But you can't even go in your office while checking your email. So these things become so unconscious that it's going to make your lives so much better, right? So now I want to introduce Paul. He's an award-winning expert in product innovation and AI, right? Spent over 20 years with media, fintech, and civic tech, working with Microsoft, Walmart, Apple, and Comcast. He works with startups and local governments and community organizations like ours to help us get to where we need to be, right? So we appreciate your time here, and I guess it says here he's created billions in value. So hopefully we can get some of those billions in this room. So welcome, Paul Wright. Thank you.
So thank you all again. My name is Paul Wright, and I am beyond excited to be here. As Dave said, and I really love those 4 stages because they are really indicative of where we are in AI again. So a little bit about my background, as Dave said, I've kind of spanned the ecosystem, right? I've worked for very, very large companies. I've started a couple myself, and I've worked for everything kind of in between. So for me, when I've been paying attention to where AI was, many, many years ago, before it was kind of called AI, called machine learning and things like that. And a couple years ago, when it really started to become more well-known and more accessible, that's really got me excited because from a small business perspective, from a local and regional impact perspective, that's where my head immediately went, which is this is where it can have the greatest impact. Yes, it's already having an impact on large enterprises, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But to me, being able to harness the power of it at the local level and the regional level was really where I thought. So first thing I want to do, however, is kind of get a read of where everyone is in their own kind of AI journey. So just by kind of show of hands, I'm going to ask a few questions. How many use kind of one of the main chatbots, so like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, any of those on a regular basis? Awesome. Okay. How many people use tools outside of those that are AI tools on any regular basis? Okay, a few more left hands. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go down to a couple specific names of products, which we're going to go over today, and that hit that practical use of AI. How many have heard of a tool called Gamma? Okay, great. How many have heard of a tool called Lovable? Great. How many have heard of a tool called Notebook LM? It's a Google product. Okay, perfect. All right. So we're going to go through those, and the reason I bring them up, and the reason I started with the kind of chatbot question first, and as Dave said, kind of that, I forget what stage she was, but that kind of consciously unaware but learning, right? That was the first step in terms of using those models, like the ChatGPTs and Gemini and Claude. They're fantastic. Those other tools I started to mention that I will go through are really where you start to see the power of that. So those first tools kind of lay the foundation, and then other tools kind of go on top. So what I want to do to start, and I'm not going to promise, I'm not going to go through math or anything like that. I'm just kind of start off like what AI is and isn't. Just to, the fact that you are using kind of the models is fantastic, but I always like to kind of level set about what AI is, and Rob kind of hit it on the automation side, but really at the end of the day, AI is there to kind of make products smarter. It allows kind of machines to think a little bit on their own, a little bit from a certain perspective. But the key thing is, and I hope everyone can see this, the key thing to understand what AI is pattern recognition. Now, I'm not going to go into the math, but I always like to lay this groundwork about what AI is and how it works, because it really makes a difference in how you use it and how you think through using it. So at the end of the day, AI is it is a tool of probability. It is a tool of decisions along the way. So the best analogy I've ever heard that is accessible to people who are, there's the math guys who can, put them to the side for a second. They're going to tell you what AI is from a math perspective. But for regular people like us, the best analogy I've ever heard is Plinko. How many know what Plinko is? Like, where you drop the ball in the top and it bounces down a little bit. So, if you ever watch The Price is Right, you can see the big Plinko board up there. So when you drop the ball into the top of a Plinko, Plinko board, whether it's a little one or a big one like that, the ball bounces around and it settles down at the bottom. And if you keep doing that, you're going to get some type of distribution. The normal, bell curve distribution is the normal, kind of spread. But what's happening is that as that ball goes down, it's constantly making decisions, unconsciously, of course, for the ball, whether it's going to go left or right, and then it settles on the bottom into some answer. AI is basically that. When you drop a ball into the top, that is when you ask it a question, or when you pose a problem for it to solve, that question, that response, or that inquiry is dumped into basically a ginormous Plinko board. So think of that giant Plinko board. Has about 64,000, about 122 pegs, give or take. And you're jumping into an AI model that has, I think GPT-4 has about like 1.7 trillion, right? But the idea, what's happening is every time it comes up with that, when you ask that question, it's coming up with a decision. Okay, because based on the prompt, I'm either going to go left or right to get to this answer. And how those pegs, how that flow works is based on how you ask the question, how you prompt, okay, how you make that inquiry, all right? That then gets you to the answer. And I just like to start with that because that leads to what AI is not, right? Because it's based on probability, because it's based on continuously making decisions and just figuring out how to answer your question, it's not, a single brain that is out there that is just answering questions. It's not some giant, single database of information that's just spitting it back to you. It is a decision-making machine that has its own fallibilities, has its own biases. The one thing I always like to mention, and I'm sure you've heard this in the news, AI and AI is every one of those models that you guys work with, ChatGPT or Gemini or any of them, they are not objective. Okay, they are not benign answering machines. They are making decisions based on the information that's gone into them to help train them. So as you are using AI, and again, I love it, it's a partner of mine, but I always want to start with that caveat that it is not always right, it is not infallible, it is not objective, so it is a companion to you as you work, but you can't rely on it 100% or rely on the model to answer 100%. Because again, it's making decisions left and right. So think about when someone asks you a question. You go through your brain, who asked you the question? What type of question is it? What kind of context are you coming to that answer with? It's the same thing with AI. So, and again, if you ask me the same question 5 times, hopefully I kind of give you the same answer, but I've been told by my kids I don't always do that. And so that's the same thing with AI, right? So it is constantly making those decisions, and it's just a conscious effort that you have to know kind of going in. So, again, before we get into the nuts and bolts and some demos here, another kind of foundational thing I always like to talk about is, AI is, as opposed to the enterprise level, which we're talking about the Amazons of the world and et cetera. AI for use in small business, local businesses, regional governments, et cetera, is absolutely not about replacing people. It is about enhancing your capabilities. Unlike, large companies, again, I've worked for some have been clients, the mindset there obviously is of efficiency, of course. What can an AI engine do that maybe these 15 people or 20 people, 100 people cannot do, cannot replace them, and those decisions are being made. If anyone tells you that they're not laying off people because of AI, absolutely lying. That's exactly why definitely why they're laying people off. However, at the local level, when it's for small businesses and regional businesses, when you have a tool that can replace some of the repetitive tasks that you have to do, or enhance some of the deep analysis that you have to do, or keeps you chained to your desk or kind of running around looking for data as opposed to doing other things that value your business or your organization. When you have a tool that can replace that, it is not about, okay, now I'm going to lay off 3 people. It's like, oh, great, now we can actually do 10 other things that we couldn't do because we just didn't have time to do them. So AI is really about enhancing. And for me, like when I look about the different use cases, if you have a chatbot or an agent, again, something that's like automating discussion or automating interactions with people, that lets you be a 24/7 business without having to be up 24/7 or actually having to staff 24/7. That leads to stronger relationships. When you have a tool that can create content for you based on your voice and based on your business and your goals, when you have something that can create content for you much more efficiently, now you can leverage that content, make it smarter to actually drive more business or drive more impact on your organization. When you have dashboards that can show you what's going on with your business or with your market, that is exceedingly sophisticated analysis where 5, 10, 15 years ago, you're paying 6 figures for that easy, if not 7 in some cases. Now a lot of that deep analysis is available through these models for negligible cost outside of your time. And when you can do that as a small and medium-sized business, that enhances the value of your time, of your employees' time, of your team's time, et cetera. So for me, like at the local and regional level, small business and mid-sized businesses, it's really all about kind of enhancing what you're able to do, enhancing your mission and your vision. Okay, so first thing I want to kind of talk about today, and we'll start the kind of the active part of this, are prompting. For those of you, so everyone raised their hand when they said that do you use like some of them, when I asked if you use some of the big models out there, ChatGPT, etc. How many of you have like a structure or a method to how you ask it questions, how you ask your problem? What do you do? Like, what's your method? What do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, first I write what I want to say, and then I go on ChatGPT just to see what they think. How I can make it better or tighten or something, and then I tweak it in with my own stuff.
Nice.
That's what I do.
One other person. How do you prompt?
Well, in my prompt, whatever I'm going to do, I give it its role.
Mm-hmm.
And then it could be something as simple as, rewrite this in a more concise way or friendlier manner, or I could use it just to brainstorm.
Absolutely. Great. So I love both of those answers. And first thing I want to kind of impart to you, kind of with what they just said in mind, starting with the role, etc. Think about again at that Plinko board, right? You want to direct that ball down the Plinko board with as much precision as possible. You want it to get to the end state that you want it to be, right? And in order to do that, that's where kind of prompting comes in the right way. And it lays the groundwork for really how you interact. So when I say prompting, again, you're asking it questions. However, there are a couple ways to do it, right? There is, just asking it a question, which obviously you can do, but as the young lady right there just said, you want to also try to think about how to structure it so it's getting to what you want. So think about it this way. If someone asks you a question, so I have 2 kids, 2 boys. If they are asking me a question, my brain is going to start thinking about the answer in a certain way that is relevant as a dad to my two boys. Versus if my boss asks me a question, then I'm answering it in the terms of, okay, I'm answering it in terms of, an employee that is, working on project X. They could ask me literally the same question, and my answer is going to be different. Content itself is, going to be roughly the same, right? But the delivery, the precision, or the approach is going to be different. So let's look at it kind of in practice. Actually, look out! I like to use examples from companies that are in the area. So if I use your company, if you're here, I'm just using your company's name. I have no idea what your company does or does not. So Kolakowski, I just happen to use this one. So let's say that Dave's company wants to, you could use AI to kind of write a Facebook post for it. So you can see here I have a very basic prompt. Write a Facebook post.
You cannot read that.
Yeah, it's too small. Yeah, it's tough.
Shut the lights off.
Can you go to the presentation mode?
It's still blurry. I don't know the glasses.
Let me see here.
Can you make it slide mode?
Go full screen with
That's
the
fine.
slides.
Yeah, the problem is I'm going to be popping around to my browser. That's why.
Oh,
Is that better?
oh, really? Yeah, okay, right.
And I'll read it too, like as
For Calvin, yeah, Facebook.
So, simple prompt here. I say, write a Facebook post for Colatow about new courses introduced this fall. So I'm just going to copy that, right? I'm just going to go to Claude. And just put that in. Okay. So, generic, just kind of put that in. Tell me it's going to help me write this post about new courses. It's checking around. Okay, here. Oops. Oops. Okay. So, wrote fall courses are here, ready to keep level up, master message. I really didn't give it any guidance, right? I just said, write me a post. And, this is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's pretty, it's there, it provides some information. But what if I wanted to be a little bit more kind of precise, right? Oh, shoot. Forgot to give me a second here. Sorry. Okay. You do not worry about reading this. I wrote this ahead of time. So so now I'm going to say, well, what if I wanted to use a little bit more structure, give it a little bit more information, all right? So the 4 things I always use in my structure, and my prompts, is first of all, was mentioned before, a role, which is who are you when you're asking? Remember, these models have been trained for years on, we'll put the ethics of how they did it to the side for a second, but basically scraping everything that we've around the internet for years and lots of data, and it's been going in. So as a result, they basically have information about the types of people, the types of roles, the types of occupations in great detail. All right? So giving it a role, and we'll go into this example in a second, is number 1. Let it know what mindset it's coming from. So in the case of this example, we're going to put it in the role of a social media marketing expert, right? Because we're going to go into that. The next thing is objective, right? What are you actually trying to accomplish? So again, remember, if my boss asks me a question, he wants something very different than if my kids ask me a question or if my buddy's asking me a question, right? The goal of their question to me is just different, right? And so the same thing goes here. give it a roll, and let it know what you want at the end of the day. Okay, at the end of the response. So that's the objective. Okay. The third one is a little bit gray-ish in the sense of the context. That is, okay, if you put yourself in the human brain, right, it is, we come with context everything that we do. We try to silo our world and silo our kind of responses, but the fact is, like, we all have, things that we know, things we're bringing to a conversation, sometimes good, maybe sometimes not as good, but that is the fact. Here you want the same thing. So context being, what's the background information of this question? Why do you need this objective? What is some additional information that can help me answer that question and meet that objective within the role that you've assigned to me? All of those things we do unconsciously. That's just as we answer questions or doing research. You need to tell the AI to do that. Again, remember, it's a probability machine, right? So as it's going down that Plinko board, those pegs are going to be dictated by, what are the background or what's the information that goes into me making that decision of that ball going left or right? And that's what goes into it. And then the last one being the instructions. So the instructions, trying to be as specific as possible. So do you want a 20-word, article? Do you want a 100-word, mini post? Do you want an image that does X, all right? Being as specific as possible with those instructions. So that structure also helps you think through, like, again, directing it. Because if you don't make those decisions, those kind of 4 criteria, if you don't put those into your prompt, you're basically telling the AI, make those decisions for me. And then I'll take your answer, and then maybe I'm just going to continue to tweak it. Yes?
So I don't really use AI, but my question is, like, if I'm going to put instructions into AI, do I say, I'm a business owner, I want to fire a client, how should I say it to them nicely?
Yeah.
Or do you say, pretend you're a business owner and you want to fire somebody, how would you say it? Like, how do you address, what's the proper way to address AI?
That's a great question, and it's really up to you.
Very basic.
And I can tell you right now, I do both. So you can think about it this way. If you think about how you sometimes ask for advice before you do anything that you're about to do, you can do it in a number of ways. But one way could be, hey, you're sitting with a friend, or doing some research. I need to feed information into my brain so that I can do this. So I want to fire this person. Let me read as much as I can about it. Let me figure out all the information. Give me some use cases about how best to do it, and then I'm going to do it. So you think about the AI as a sounding board, okay, where I'm asking it questions and it's giving me advice that I'm going to do. That's one way to do it. And if your brain works that way, that's the way you should do it. The other way is role play, absolutely, which is to say, you are about to fire someone. You are about to, and here's the context of why you're firing that person. And this is what I, hope happens when they are let go, or what I hope doesn't happen when they're let go. How would you approach it? And there's benefits to both. The one benefit to the second one, which is where you are putting the role on them, and this happened in the first example as well, which is, remember, they've been trained on ridiculous amounts of information. So all of the HR expertise, in this case, all of the psychological research, all of the good and bad cases that have occurred when people are fired are fed are in there. So when you're asking, hey, how best should I approach this given this situation or this background, they're going to be giving you the best practice, and then you can take that and then tweak it based on the specific situation. So both are valid approaches, and it's really a matter of what's best for you as you kind of think through those things. Yeah.
So I have a colleague who says if you say please, you get a different response. Any thoughts on that?
I have tested, read, and seen conflicting things around all of that. I do say please.
I do too.
And I think it's unconscious, but I've tested it and I've read, and let me say it this way. responses now, as we sit here in October of 2025, and the way it works, and the way that I've gotten responses back for different things, is different than just even 2 years ago. So the models and the tools have become so much more sophisticated that this is Paul's opinion, and like I said, people have argued on both sides of this. I do think it matters, especially, and again, it depends upon the context that we were just discussing. I tend to use AI in a lot of ways, but when I'm just using the models, I really use them as kind of thought partners with me. Like, so, because, again, as I said before, you should never rely on AI to give you all the answers, but it's fantastic at like thinking through things, going through scenarios and stuff like that. So in that context, yeah, I say please all the time. Or if you're in a friendly debate with a colleague or a friend trying to get to an answer, yeah, you're debating, but it's friendly and it's cordial. Absolutely, I say thank you, please. And to put it in kind of nuts and bolts terms a little bit, part of the reason that people didn't want to do that before is like this, it didn't really matter. But depending upon how you're using AI, if it's within the models themselves, or if you're pulling AI into it from, and I promise I won't get too techie on it, but through what's called an API, like into some other tool, there's a cost to that. So when you say please and thank you, you get charged kind of by the word. I mean, it's like fractions of a penny, but it's not zero, right? So sometimes people are like, oh, well, if you're going to be using it for mass volumes of data, please and thank you, just add cost, right? But I think it makes a difference. And frankly, like I said before, it's kind of your own personality. I do please and thank you all the time, so I think it makes sense. So getting back to this, so what we were talking about for the different version of, and again, don't worry about reading this. I wrote it out before, but it's good. Like this is again, don't worry about reading it. Obviously, this is a more detailed, structured prompt of the Facebook post that we were just talking about. Thinking through your social media manager, I want them to write a Facebook post announcing the new beginning, intermediate, like a few specific courses that have been released, right? Because they're trying to gain momentum for the holidays. What's some of the context? What's some of the background information, right? Well, here's Dave's website, colacala.com. Check that out because you can go in and get the background on it, right? This is the first set of new courses for the day, and then I want them to be a launch pad both for existing customers and to get some new ones. And then my instructions, this is where it starts to, you hone it, right? Which is like, I want the post to be read in 15 seconds, be able to read in 10 to 15 seconds. I don't want someone to have to kind of go down some big long post, right? And this is where, this next one here is leveraging, again, that training that's out there. I say, structure the post like the most popular Facebook posts for business consultants in New Jersey, right? That's because I don't know what that is, but the information that has been trained for these models, they know that. So while I'm giving it some very specific guidelines, I'm also taking advantage of the fact that there's information that I just don't, I'm not going to have time to go try to find or figure out. And then use a friendly and inviting, but professional tone with the focus on exciting the reader. So again, what's the tone? Get into what we were just talking about. Please, thank you. But like, what's your voice? Again, what's the voice that you want to appear, right? So if I put that in, let's copy this. Go back to Claude. All right. This is crafting the post based on announcement. Now it's checking the existing courses and checking the site. So here. Okay. Okay. Now it's, again, much tighter. It's like specifically now talking about those courses, specifically talking about the advanced, referencing the fact that this is their first courses this year. Again, it gets more to what I specifically wanted it to do. I didn't let it make decisions on my behalf. I made the decisions to kind of guide that ball down the Plinko board in order to be able to kind of get to what I wanted, right? So that kind of structured prompt engineering kind of makes sense for anything that you are doing in the AI space.
So all those details that you put in, all the roles, objective, context, instruction that you had on the previous page, you put all that in at one time?
Yeah, you saw me do it, absolutely.
Enter.
Yeah, so I'm using Claude here. How many of you have used Claude?
No, I use chat.
So yeah, Claude is like another version. Actually, I would get really yelled at by saying that. Claude is another one of the large models. So the big three models, ChatGPT is owned by OpenAI, which basically started off as a Microsoft partnership. Claude is run by a company called Anthropic, which is basically an offshoot of Amazon. And then the other big one is Gemini, which is a Google it's kind of a Google tool. So yeah, to your question, yeah, you saw me just copy that whole thing, just stuck it right in there. Absolutely. And it gives all the content. Actually, you can go up here, you can see it. Sit here.
Don't you find it best to stay with one LLM rather than switching back and forth?
Great question. They each have their strengths. So, I would say for general questions, I would say if I were going to, ChatGPT is the best for like most general things, okay? And I mean, that's the one I probably use the most, more than Claude, actually, and this all goes into how it was trained. I won't go into kind of why I think it ended up this way, but Claude is very good at writing. I created a post here. It's good at like reports. It's very good at analysis that goes into reports. I find it better than ChatGPT in that respect. It's like it has a better sense of creating a voice that makes sense for like how I like things wrote, and so I use it more for writing, both for short, medium, and even for longer form writing. Gemini, which is owned by Google, it probably lags those two overall, but that one is I'd still put it at number 2, but it's better at data analysis than ChatGPT. If you're creating images, I would go with ChatGPT. So they each have their strengths and weaknesses. Now, that all being said, it does come down to personal preference in a lot of respects. And I have friends who will
Can I follow that up with another question?
Yeah.
Because if you're using one LLM, does it not maintain all the history of what you asked it? So in a year from now, if David goes back in and he says, I have some new courses that I want to promote, would it not then go back to the history of your chats, and say, oh yeah, I remember this from a year ago and this is what you should be doing now?
Yes-ish. In that, if you stay with if you have regular chats right within the same LLM, yes, it gets to know you and know your history. So yeah, you can go in, and actually I recommend everyone do this. It might freak you out a little bit, it works. Just go into, I saw a lot of right hands for ChatGPT. Go into ChatGPT and say like, what do you know about me? Don't even give it any, forget what I said about structured prompts, just do that. Kind of freaky a little bit, but in a good way. So it can remember how it's trained. It doesn't necessarily archive everything. Now, there's a new set, and actually I have a slide for this that will go into it. In both ChatGPT and Claude, they both created something called projects to do better at what you just said, which is if I have lots of information that I'm feeding into a model for purposes of whatever it is, I can load information in. It doesn't get spread out. It's private to me, or it's solely for me. But it allows for that memory to be even better. So yes, it can learn you about you, train about you. But if you come back a year later, you can kind of pick up. But a lot of that may not. A lot of the details may have gone, but the essence of it would still be. Yep.
You said a lot of that is private to you, so what if you upload a personal financial statement?
So this is the way I view that. So think about what you would be comfortable loading into, say, like Google Docs or things like that. If you're comfortable loading in a private personal statement into Google Docs, then do it. I would not recommend you do that into these models. They have long since gone past and if you read through all the terms and conditions, they don't use kind of personal information to train, and they're very explicit about that. But it becomes almost a point of personal comfort at that point. I would highly recommend, and if you take nothing away from this, other than this, is that avoid putting highly personal stuff into these models. I mean, it's just, yes, they have guardrails against it. Yes, they certainly have gotten better, but it's not zero risk. So, personal information that you don't feel comfortable being out there, if you're not comfortable putting into like a Google Docs, I wouldn't put it into here. Yep.
Are there different subscription levels for AI software? Like you could, first of all, just sign up for a month or for a year, and then this level will only let you do this type of stuff versus, if you pay more, you can do other stuff that you can't do.
Oh, absolutely. So on and we'll get into a tool in a second, but with the main chatbots here, so again, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, yes, there's a free level, which basically allows you to kind of ask. It's no restriction on what you can ask, it's really much how much you can ask, right? So that's kind of the base level that most people are at. The next level up, it's like a $20 a month level, which is what I use on most of them, and you can get a ton, right? And so that's with a user going into the model and asking it various questions and gives you some space, etc. ChatGPT also has a 200 a month level, which is really for people that are working with lots of clients and need that certain level, right? Now that's with a user, that's with a person using the chatbots. It's $0 to $20 a month tends to be kind of the sweet spot. The flip side of that, however, which is a little more advanced, but I'll tell you about it here. And again, I said I promise I won't get too techy, but you can connect, things that you're building, whether it be a spreadsheet, whether it be a website, whether it be some type of automation that you want to kind of an automation that you want to say you want to automatically create invoices, or I'll show you an example of that. You can create that type of a website and connect it to the model so that basically think of it like the power of the model in terms of all the types of questions you would ask it there can feed information into your application, right? And that's done by what's called an API, like an application programming interface. And again, I promise that's the last time I'll say that. But that comes with a cost. So every model is a little bit different. So basically every time, if I build a spreadsheet and I want to call Claude to have it feed some data into it, every time I call it, I'm not even kidding, it's literally like pennies, if not sub pennies. Up to, actually some of them can be a little bit more expensive in terms of 10 to 15 cents per token or per 7 words, right? Those come with costs. So you really only use those, again, if you are, usually those are for, specific applications, etc. But it can be very well worth it because they're so powerful, as opposed to, apologies to all of us that are in the software business, we've been in it for 20 plus years. What I just showed you, and I'll show you kind of something here with a tool called Airtable, that with AI, I can pay Airtable $20 a month for powerful CRM technology that you would have to pay 5 or 6 figures easy 5-10 years ago for the same level of power. So yes, there's different levels of cost, but it really depends on how you use it, but there's free levels of that. Okay. So actually, great. So any questions on the kind of the prompt structuring or anything like that? I spent more time on it than I expected, but I love the questions. Keep them coming. Yep.
Is there any one of the different AI softwares out there that are available to the public that you feel is better for marketing purposes for a small business?
Oh, so when you say for marketing purposes, and we'll kind of get into this in a second.
Want to grow your business, you know, which one do you think is more business-minded than like ChatGPT and the Google one are very generic? You know, they're not really business-minded.
That's exactly right. So let me answer it this way. So the models themselves, I think of them more like the engine, right? How you layer your marketing goals on top is for you, right? So let me say it this way. So if I think about marketing, and I split it into a couple sectors, right? There's the content part of marketing, right? Which is I'm crafting content, I need to get it out there, whether it's digital content or I'm creating posters or flyers, etc. That's one part of marketing, right? Another part of marketing would be the analytical part of marketing, right? Which is, you know, what's my conversion rate on certain things? Like how much is someone spending with me, and why are they not spending more with me? Like how do I, you know, increase the effectiveness of that content, etc. Right? I don't think there's any one model that does everything that you want. I think it's, and I'll go to this in a tool in a second. I think leveraging each one of them for their strengths. So for example, as I said before, I think Claude is much better at writing than ChatGPT. If I were going to create content, like in terms of create the digital content like we just did with this Facebook post, I tend to use Claude, right? If I'm going to create analysis, I usually do this. Remember what I said before about these models are not infallible. I actually use models to check against each other. Like, so if I'm creating, and if I'm looking at my customers and a customer base and I'm trying to analyze them, I will kind of load a kind of spreadsheet, say, into ChatGPT and ask it the key questions and say, what do you see in this one? You know, ask them some related questions, and then literally take that answer and the core content and put it into Claude and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about this. Where do you think the holes are in this analysis? And when you find those holes in your analysis, update the content to be able to take best advantage of that analysis. So I use them both, and so that's where I get excited about these models, because they are a foundation, but at the end of the day, they don't replace what we all have to do to run our businesses, but they just provide fantastic tools. So to your point, I think it's a combination of them. But
Yeah, I use them like as a second and third opinion. We all have our own opinion.
100%.
And then I tend to go and I'll dump stuff in there occasionally just to get a second and third opinion. Maybe I'll get enlightened by something. You know what I mean? It'll cause me to go deep dive elsewhere. But I'm just looking for, so like I have a second business, and I want to target certain markets. Like I need to go after CFOs of corporations, et cetera.
Yep.
So I'm just looking for different ways to try and target those people. Like where do those people go? How do I target them? That type of thing.
Yeah, so, okay, so
That's why I'm saying, is there
Yeah.
any one model that you've come across in your own experience that would be better focused for, you know, somebody that has a small business, they want to grow their business?
For lead
You know, you
generation.
want to find your target market. So, you know, which one do you think is dealing with more businesses and corporations and growing businesses? In your own opinion?
Or is it a function of just saying,
yeah.
the question of role, like,
Right.
as a business owner, and qualifying it that way?
So let me answer the question and then show you something with a tool that leverages the model. So in terms of, to your example, like you're trying to target CFOs, you want to find them, where are they, like what are they doing out there? Not to throw a wrench in anyone's plans, actually there's another tool that I use for that type of stuff, and I use it myself for kind of finding targets in my sector. It's called Perplexity. Okay? Perplexity, it's been around for a couple years now, and remember what I just kind of said about, you know, it's usually a combination of models, etc. So Perplexity literally does that. It sits on top of all the models and web search. And the great thing about Perplexity is that when you ask it a question or ask it, and again, it's an LLM, it's a combination of LLMs, of the big models, plus search. It also, in the output, provides, actually, let me just go right to it. It provides sources as well. So, complexity, there it is. Complexity AI. And thanks to Ralph for letting me use this computer. Like, so I'm not logged in to all the stuff I would normally be logged into. Okay, so if I said to Perplexity, provide me with CFOs in the Ocean County area. Right. Okay. All right, so it is pulling from, Pro. It's your question, always upgrade to something, right? Okay, so again, like anything else, you gotta check the veracity of the data, et cetera. But I like Perplexity because number one, it keeps the sources kind of right there. So if I click on sources, it's providing me all of them right there. Like, yes, the other models can do that, but these guys just put it like front and center so that you can really check to make sure it's accurate. But then also, so getting back to the answer, looking at it, providing some specific names, different townships, then the related stuff, CSO for districts. It just, from a research perspective, I find this the best tool. And then like anything else, look at it and then you'll kind of feed it into the next step of things.
Thanks. I never heard of that.
Oh, it's a fantastic tool. Yes?
So I was, several times I was in the middle of like a long conversation and then like sort of in the middle of just like forgot what I'm like saying. In other words, they will tell me all of a sudden like, give me 3 to 5 minutes and never comes back. So
which model were you using when you did that?
ChatGPT.
Yeah. So this goes to your question as well, which is that happened. I wish I could say, but that happens. But let me show you something that literally they have done to address that. Okay, so both ChatGPT and Claude. So if you go to them, you'll see something called projects. Okay, and ChatGPT has it as well. Projects. What projects are? They basically are ways to kind of address what you're talking about. So if I just go into, go into either one of these, you can start going into these long conversations and it goes all the way down. And on the ChatGPT side, it's known for doing that. On the Claude side, it gets even a little more infuriating. You can get to a point on Claude where it just decides that it's too long of a thread and it's like, we're done. And let me tell you, that is not happy camper when that happens. So there are now something called projects, and I haven't even gotten to the first tool yet, but this is an example of that, but in a different way. So projects are basically like repositories of think of them like little mini, like a microcosm of the broader model AI. So you can load in specific files or sources, can be anything. It could be, images, could be, you can see here I have some doc files in there, PDFs, and you can, in Claude, you can kind of load in as much as you want up until like the capacity. In ChatGPT, you can only load 25 files, actually 25 files under one. Actually, to the latest question, you can 40 if you up your subscription. But that allows you, it will keep hold of that conversation and not. So I've loaded in, and this is like an example of a real estate company I'm working with. Under this project, these are all the files that I've loaded in here on the right. All different types of files, some of their funding, they buy buildings and to house homeless veterans, fantastic organization. But here on the left are all the different individual conversations I've had with it. So it allows me to avoid having super, super long conversations. I can have smaller targeted ones, but it's still leveraging all the key information that is relevant for that. So that's a long-winded answer to say like, yes, that happens, but to mitigate, there's different ways to mitigate that, like either using projects or just shortening your conversations as you are actually, if you're just using the regular chat.
So if you start in ChatGPT, and you have, then you develop a project file and you drop it, is it a drag and drop over there? Or
No,
you
it's
have to
not.
start in projects?
You have to start in projects.
Okay.
However, and I've done it. So if you start a chat, and again in Claude or in ChatGPT, the best thing to do is if you get to a point where you're like, wow, I need to expand this, right? Best thing to do is to literally take that chat, kind of copy it, throw it into a Word file, and then load that file into a project, and it's all there, and then start a new one there. I've done that multiple times, and it works great. Because, yeah, you get to a point where you're like, oh, I didn't think I started one in a project. Now it's kind of expanded on me. Let me just transfer it over.
What is it? It's on called projects on Claude. What is that same thing called on ChatGPT?
Projects.
Oh, it's the same name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They're very original.
Great, thank you.
You can see here, so you see here under projects on the left, that's ChatGPT. So see here, I have a project with another kind of public corporation I'm working with. And then same thing under projects. Now they have slight differences. Like I said, ChatGPT has a max file count, so you can only load in either 25 if you're under the 20 buck a month, or you can do 40 if you up it up. Under Claude, it's not by number of files, it's by overall capacity. And I'm only barely touching it.
There's one way to like, sort of resume the conversation, so like copy and paste it into a new chat, or would that not really help?
Yeah, so if you are in a chat and you get stopped,
Right.
one way to try to restart it is either to, copy that, put it into a file, and use that file. Say you don't even want to use a project. You can do that with just another chat. Like, so when you go into a chat, you always have, the ability to add, upload files. So you see down here, this is Claude. You can upload files, take a screenshot, so anything like that. So you can just make a file out of something that's stalled for some reason, and again, it happens. And just upload it into another chat to kind of get it started. Another good thing about Claude, and again, this is a little bit. We won't have time to go into too detail here, but you can now connect. They have like third-party services that you can connect to Claude. Like for example, I'm not. I don't know if I have it here. I think I'm logged in as me. Yeah. So you can connect to Gmail, connect to Calendar. So there's a reason for this. If you ever heard the acronym MCP, it's basically a way for these models to connect to like other regular tools. So I can kind of bring in anything I want into kind of a Claude conversation. So for example, how many of you guys have heard of Fireflies?
Firefly?
Yeah, Firefly.
I use it every day.
Same here. So Firefly is a note-taking. There's a lot of these note-taking tools that are out there. I frankly can't live without them. Right? I don't even know how I live without them, to be honest with you. It can sit on a call, take the transcript, take the notes. Otter's one, Firefly's one, Zoom has their own, etc. So Claude has a connection to Firefly. So I can ask something in Claude and say, I know I just had a kind of meeting with Dave in Ocean County the Ocean County Chamber meeting. It was on October 30th. Check Fireflies and bring that into the conversation, right? Or bring that into the analysis of what I'm asking for. It's awesome because it allows really concrete ways to kind of connect the dots, right?
I think you're talking about a different Firefly than one I use.
Oh yeah, what are you talking about?
Adobe Firefly?
Oh no. Adobe Firefly. Oh, the image creator. Oh no. Yes, Fireflies is Adobe Firefly. If anyone creates images, it's amazing. I was more too many similar names out there now. Fireflies is a note-taking app that can sit on calls with you. The cool thing about it is it'll sit on calls even if you're not there. I literally have had many a call where it shows up before I did. I know we are running behind, so I'm going to kind of race through things. But keep the questions coming. I'd much rather answer questions than kind of go through it. a lot of what we were just talking about, things about how the models remember things like that. How many of you are familiar with, I think no one raised their hand, with Notebook LM? Okay, so Notebook LM, you see on the screen here, it's a Google product. So underneath the hood here is the Gemini model. So again, remember the big three models out there, and there's more than three, but the big three again: ChatGPT, or OpenAI, ChatGPT is OpenAI, Claude, run by Anthropic, and Gemini, which is run by Google. So and I just used Britain Orthodontics again. I don't know if anyone from Britain Orthodontics are here. But think about Notebook LM as a Swiss Army knife for content. Okay, so everything I just went through about about ChatGPT projects and Claude projects, they're basically external versions of what Notebook LM is internally. So what Notebook LM allows you to do is you can put in any sources that you want. So all I did here is I just added in the website for Britain Orthodontics. I just put in the website. Now I could add in PDFs, I could add in any content I want. And what then Notebook LM does, like within minutes, is it allows it to create any type of content you could imagine, right? So again, just by putting in the website, it automatically created a chat for me that I can then ask questions about, kind of dynamically like it would any chatbot. And then it has this studio over here that basically allows you to create any type of content you want. When I say any type of content, I mean audio, I mean video. You can direct it to create posts for you, etc. So for example, just by loading in the website, okay, it created a video, like a 5-minute video of, based on the information that it culled from internet, including, I don't know if we have voice here. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my computer, so I don't know. The speaker's not on. Including like people talk. So I mean, it creates voices. It allows for audio or video content creation. And remember we were talking about prompts. So it allows for the creation of any types of reports, again, based on any type of content you put in there. Again, all I did was put in the website, right? If I go in here and I say I want to do a briefing doc, it can just create it. I'll show you a couple examples. But remember what we were talking about before, that prompts are kind of the language of AI. Like in here, not only can I, basically down here where it says describe the report you want to create, that's the prompt. Like this is just static. I didn't change anything in here. This is just what it is by default. But the amazing thing is it can translate it automatically into any language. So without doing anything except pointing and clicking and putting in the prompts about how you want a report to be, you can then flip it to any language. That includes spoken language as well. So any language that you put in there, and if you create an audio podcast or what have you, it's going to be in that language as well. Okay. It is a very powerful tool. I don't use it probably to its full extent. What I typically use it for is, and I'll show you an example. I typically use it for kind of synthesizing conversations. So for example, I've been working again with this real estate company. So you see here on the left, I've been doing calls with their entire leadership, thinking through their AI strategy, right? So all I do is kind of load in here. This is where I have, so you can see it, just kind of questions and answers that I had. You see here. So you can see my fireflies. So firefly summary, which is basically the summary of different calls that we've had. Put them all in here so that I can really start pinging it with questions that are then going to lead me to some deeper analysis, right? Highly powerful tool. Again, think about everything that we were talking about, chats and tools. It shrink wraps it into a single, and it's a free tool. But to your point, it's a free. Then if you start being a power user, they can pop things like $20 a month or something like that. But you can use it for free. It's a free tool on the Google interface. Yep.
So like, could you say, please make me a voicemail greeting in the voice of Brian Lair?
So let me answer that this way. You couldn't say in the voice of Brian Lair here on. You could say, create a voicemail greeting in this tone, etc. It's not going to be his exact voice. However, and gets a little sticky. There's a tool called 11 Labs, okay, which is sophisticated audio AI. So the AI here, in terms of the voices, they're pretty standard voices. I think you can choose like different forms of female and male voices that have different, accents and things like that. 11 Labs lets you get a little bit more like detailed. Not going to let you do things like you mentioned because they'll cut it off from a trademark and et cetera perspective. However, reality is that you can tweak it a lot more in that tool.
What did you say, 11 what?
11 Labs, so the number. The word 11 and the word labs, LABS, 11 Labs. Yep.
So with that, could you record your own voice and then have it prompt or say things in your own voice?
Yes. 11 Labs lets you do that. Absolutely. So that is actually. So if you've kind of seen across the net or LinkedIn or any of those type of things where people are, it's hard to almost tell now, like if it's AI or not. Typically, if it's audio, there's a number of tools out there. 11 Labs is by far like the best one, or the number one. But including especially being able to clone your own voice to be able to use it wherever you want. Okay, so that is Notebook LM. Highly recommend. Again, to the marketing question, right? So if I can go in here and say, write me a post that is, again, because it's on the Gemini LM. You can say, write me a post that is going to be most effective for engaging CFOs based on my information that I'm loading in there, and it will turn that around for. And then of course you can tweak it and do what you need to do, or you can say, create a podcast that is going to talk about my business, and they have pretty neat audio. I highly recommend you kind of spend some time in it. That allows. They have this one standard audio format where literally it's two people, one male, one female. It can be whatever you want, but that's the default is that, where they will just like talk about your business as if it's like a talk show, and it
does it for you.
It does it for you, like literally. So you see where it says audio overview here?
Yeah.
That's it. So you can do a few, deep dive, the brief, the critique, the debate, So literally, it sounds like, you went on a radio show and these two people are talking about your business or your company. It's a little disconcerting when you first look, but it's pretty cool. It's real, but again, it created all that. In this case, for Britain, all I did was put it in the website, and it extracts all that information from the website. And of course, if you put in, the more information you put in, obviously, the better it is. All right. Airtable is the next one I was going to talk about. Let me see here. Okay, we talked about Notebook LM. Okay, Airtable. How many of you have heard of Airtable? Great. So Airtable has actually been around, and I think they've reached 10 years at least. I think they're at least 10 years old. So it started off, and still is, like an online, and it's not as geeky as it sounds, but that probably doesn't sound that geeky, which is like an online database, an online spreadsheet. That's how they started, and still are to a large extent. But what happened when AI started to really kind of come to fruition, even before a couple years ago, they really started to put AI capabilities into their tool, right? And so as a result, it has become a really powerful product that leverages AI, but for specific, data-related purposes. So, for example, let's say that I created a fake, set of customers, I was kind of looking through, some of the business around here. I think there's one called Coupon Connection, right? Which is I was like your business, right? And so they have, I made kind of let's think of a fake scenario, right? With the business. What would I say? Let's say Coupon Connections wants to reconnect with a bunch of customers that you've had. They spent money with you in the past. Maybe haven't spent as much money with you now, you want to reconnect with them, right? And maybe you have a spreadsheet that's just, the name of the business, their address, when's their most, and again, this is all obviously fake data, I'm just using your guy's name, so, what type of business is it? How much have they totally spent with you? How much have they most recently spent with you? So some basic information, right? Now you're like, okay, how can I use that to really target who I want to re-engage, or maybe who I want to kind of see who's spent money with here or not, and how I get them back if they haven't spent money with us in a while. So one way to do it, obviously, pre what I'm about to show you, if you don't have a CRM, like a Salesforce or a HubSpot or any of those, maybe you say, okay, well, I'm going to kind of mess with Excel for a bit, or I'm going to mess with Google Sheets for a while to kind of tease this out. But that can get you some numerical analysis, but it's not going to kind of summarize things for you. Say if you want to arm your sales team with some information to go kind of target who they should be speaking to. So let's look at if we put it in the Airtable, right? So if I go to Airtable, it's airtable.com, and like everything else, there's a free version, and if you use it more, there's kind of go up. So I just want to import that. So I'm just going to import the CSV file. Let's put it in your desktop. Where's desktop? Oh, there it is. Okay. There it is. Okay. So again, I just took installed the CSV. Going to upload that. Okay. So bam. So now it's in there, right? So first thing is just making sure I can check everything. First thing I noticed, and this happens if anyone, again, I've been using Excel for many years, and again, I'm sort of going to geek out a little bit on you. Leading zeros are like the bane of my existence when it comes to Excel, right? So I just made that text, and now they're all there. So that everything else looks good. You can see they color code things. It's nice. So that's great. Let me just load that in, import that. Okay, so now it's imported. Give me a second. All right, there we go. All right, so now I have it in there. A couple seconds, it's in there. So now I can start to say, what do I have with me? So typical, some of the not AI stuff I can do right off the bat. Can start to filter some things. It's like, okay, well, let's just look at, and again, it kind of meshes being a simple spreadsheet with being a little bit more database-oriented type of things. But I can say, I want to see where I want to check out total spend. Oh no, that's not most recent action date. So who has spent money with me recently? I can say, okay, is there before, is on or before? A number of days ago, let's just call it 200. Like within the year, but right? And all of a sudden, you can see that move when it did, right? So all of a sudden now I have the ability to kind of really do some powerful filtering, right? But then I can say, well, you know what? Well, let's look at the spend. It's like, well, it's kind of all over the place. Some people spend a lot with me. Some people haven't spent as much. So this is where the embedded AI kind of can come in, right? Which is, first thing I want to do is I want to categorize these customers, maybe high, medium, and low value, based on how much they have spent with me. Now, in Excel world, and I come from the finance world, write some formulas, and you can kind of do some wizardry, and you can get that out, right? With Airtable, you can kind of do a little bit more natural language process. So I'm going to say, I want to generate some new content, and actually work this out. Sorry, let me just go back here. So I'm saying, I want to create a high, medium, and low value based on how much I spend. I'm saying high over 2,000, medium 1,000, 2,000, low 1,000 or less. So let me just copy that. Where I put it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to call this new field. Let's call it customer tier, value tier. Keep it text. And now you can see here, oops, sorry. This is where you can see it. So it's asking me what model I want to use. These are the AI models, right? So it's inside Airtable. So if I can say, so right now, to ask me if do I want to use ChatGPT 1, but I can use any of these. There's lots of different models out there. So this gets what I was saying before about API connections or connections between a tool and these models that are out there, right? So obviously there's a lot of ChatGPT models. These are all different ones there. The Claude models, I could choose one of them. And if you went through it before, each one of them has their own price associated with them. So if you have an account with X model versus A model, X model versus Y model, you can choose whatever you want, right? Llama, which is Meta's model. Okay, so I can choose any one I want. So I'm just going to stick with ChatGPT 4.1. Let me just paste in the little prompt. And again, I'm making this very simple prompt. Like I usually recommend, again, my structured prompt, but for purposes of this, I'm just going to use a very simple one. Just saying, based on the time, based on the total spent, categorize these customers, right? So I need to just say which field I want. I'm saying total spend. This. Because he's generating it, and there you go, right? So all of a sudden, I've got some values kind of right there. Again, AI driven without having to go through some formulas. I can just natural language. Now I've got that out there. So if I go in any of them, I can see that. But now I can say, you know what? That's great. Now I know what they're categorized a bit. But maybe now I want to arm my field sales guys with a little bit of a summary on how they're doing, right? And so that they can kind of have a little bit of a kind of a roadmap, right? So maybe I want to now create another column when it generates some content again. Let's call it kind of customer summary. It's a text field. Again, I could choose my model if I want. And here, again, I wrote it out already, so just go back here. I do have a little bit more of a structured prompt, right? So I'm saying you're a sales leader and a conversion expert. You're out there to try to convert people to obviously paying more money for you. What's the objective? The objective here is to regain previous customers that have not purchased recently. And I skipped the context on this one because it's basically the data. And now the instructions are to kind of write a short summary of this customer's relationship. I want you to mention their total spend, their first and most recent interactions. And then using that, though, give me a recommendation of how to regain them, right? So I'm just going to copy that. And that goes into my custom instructions here. And here, just a little bit of work to tie it to the actual columns that are in there. So total spend. Field. There we go. That. First interaction date. So when did we first start working with them? Most recent interaction date, that one. And then I tell it, use the combination of those three things, basically spend, value, and an action date, along with the best prices of, practice for engagement of the sector to suggest the best and next steps. So give it a little bit of work to do on its side, and it's a great field. Take a second. Okay, great. So now it's create a summary, but what does it say? So let's go into, one of the nice things about Airtable is that even though I'm looking at it in this kind of grid mode, you can change it to like lots of different formats. So if I wanted to go into the detail here, it's right here. So that's the basic information. But now, here, this is the two new things we just created, the high value because they spent $4,600 with us, and now the little summary that was just automatically created. They spent, with this on the 25, given their demonstrated willingness to invest, the best next step is to reach out with a personalized message, highlighting, a little generic because we gave it a pretty generic prompt, but you can see that, by leveraging kind of the AI models and giving it a little bit of instructions, I'd probably hone this up a little bit to be more specific. If you had more information about what specific products did they have or what have they bought and things like that, you can really nail it down. So now, what would normally be reserved for some CRM that you're going to pay a lot of money for, you can do, pretty quickly. I mean, we did this in a few minutes. Kind of sitting here, went from a CSV to this, within, kind of 5 minutes here. At a much more targeted and efficient cost. So again, very kind of targeted way to be able to use, in this case, AI within another product that allows you to kind of do things that are important to your business, in this case, which is to get more sales, right, to re-engage other customers. Any questions on that?
It looks like they only updated the first 10. Did you tell it to only do 10 at a time?
You know what? No, I didn't, but it always does that. It, like whenever I've run this and I've experimented with this ton. So you can see down here, you can run more. I think there's a way to say just like run, for the full spreadsheet.
You click on each one, or you just hit the next run, it'll do the next one?
You can do either. So right now, these are just individual because I think I only have like 20 showing. But you can, I think there's a way to put into the prompt. Make sure you just do the full range in the first run, not just test. Without me doing that, it only is going to do chunks of it. Okay.
And then you can take the results of this and put it into Perplexity to find similar accounts for your lead generation.
Oh, absolutely. That's where it gets really neat, being able to use these things together. Absolutely. Okay. And with that in mind, let's see. With that in mind, that's what I kind of wanted to do. Oh yeah, we're already, man, I'm running out of time. Okay, I did get a chance to show you. So what I would say here, we're not gonna have time to do this, but I wanna thank you all for giving me the time here. So if you want to follow up with me, let me just give you this. Just take a picture of this QR code. It'll get an email to you. There's a few things that you'll get from me that could benefit. Like, some 10 prompts that I've found, again, in the structure that I've provided, just 10 value-added prompts. If it's not working, there's the URL as well. It'll fill out a quick form. One is a list of 10 prompts. Oh, thanks. List of 10 prompts. Another is this deck that we just walked through, so I know we didn't get through everything. But it's deck even with some more information in it that you will be able to kind of use for your teams or just kind of take it. And then a really, really short kind of AI self-assessment, which is, I know when I do these kind of deep dives, maybe, really, kind of a long process. But here, just about 5 questions, just to, if you want to kind of follow up and do a discovery call kind of, with me, et cetera, let you kind of think through some of the top of mind items that you may be thinking of for your business. So just if you just go there, just a follow up from an email from there. I know we ran out of time, but thank you very for the great questions, man. It was like, I really appreciate it.
What were the other two things we were going over?
Yeah, Lovable and Gamma. So the two things I didn't get a chance to go to. So actually, the presentation I was showing to you was on a tool called Gamma, Gamma.app. And Lovable is a tool that lets you create basically applications and websites with natural language. If you ever heard of the term vibe coding, Lovable is my favorite tool for that.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Oh, you got it?
Couple quick things. There's a thing on Grok, which is another engine, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you use the unhinged mode, you can actually have a heated discussion. It's pretty cool. So if you're driving home and you want to have a call, get an argument, you can do that. One of the things I learned about chat is it actually makes me feel not as smart because I ask it a question, it gives me a response, and it's, don't you really want this too? It's like, I go, sure. On the 13th, we have a multi-chamber event coming up. That is at, where is that? Dave and Buster's in Freeholds. Okay, that's that one. And of course, November 20th is the comedy show, which is great, 6 to 10. All the food you can eat, all the beer and wine you can drink, and all the laughs you can garner. And then we have like 50 gift baskets that you can raffle off, and the money there goes to the scholarships of the local kids. So that's a great event. So hope to see you there.
We need sponsors.
What's that?
We need sponsors for the event.
We need baskets for the event. Yeah. Baskets.
So if you want us to promote your business at the event, give us a donation, and we'll be happy to share it with the crowd that's there.
I have something for you after this. Okay. CFO list. I got a list for you. That's about it. So hopefully you see you at the next two events. Comedy show. Rob?
One quick thing, I'd like to thank Tom Brew from Ocean TV. If you want to see this presentation, it will be up on our YouTube channel. That'll be on oceantwp.org, probably early next week. So thank you, Tom.
We're also going to connect it to our Economic Development Committee part on our website, so you'll be able to see that as well. There's also another workshop that was already posted on there, so you can
And
watch
Robert,
that.
can we put it on our website?
Sure.
It's gonna be on YouTube. You can
Yeah.
put it wherever you want.
By the way, I want to thank you all for coming and participating. And if there's anything that you ever want to talk about or any suggestions you have for our Economic Development Committee and things you want to see, please let us know. Okay, happy to talk to you about it. And I do want to thank the Chamber for putting this on and working on, and us working together. So thanks, everybody.
We'll get some audience together, right? Some more-
Oh, yeah, we got a whole slew.
So if you have some ideas on topics, let us know. We'll put that together. Thanks a lot.